What does Cardi B say? Megan Hennessy just cosplaying a white woman? Baby. I was like, oh, I wasn't even scared about there being a mass shooting. Talk about a nervous system reset, okay? YouTube, welcome back to my channel. Y'all, I got more views on my last video than I've gotten on all my videos, and it's not a lot of views, but it's more than I've had, and I feel like it's gonna be in triple digits soon. And then maybe after that, quadruple digits. So, yeah, I'm here, I'm back, and I'm excited. So thank you all for anyone who watched the last video about my experience moving abroad so far. I want to continue to document this process and talk with you all about it because, yeah, it's something that is proving to be so fulfilling. And I would make the same decision a million times over. But it's also proving to be really challenging. And I think it's for a lot of reasons, not just because I'm in a different country, but because I'm just in a completely different environment. And when you change your environment and you change your surroundings and you start something new, it's like all of your vulnerabilities, all of your wounds are like on display. At least they are for me right now. I have a lot of anxieties, even though things are going really well. And that's sort of like, I think summarizes my life belief and what I want this channel to be is that things are not always going to be 100% good or 100% bad. That's just not the way life is. Life is not this or that. It's this and that. And this experience of moving abroad is breaking me open, like in a really good way, but it's also very challenging. And I want to just share like the real about what the experience is like because I've there's a lot of move abroad and leave the USA things online, and they are so helpful. They were so helpful for me to encourage me to leave, but what was also helpful and what I don't see online a lot was like the conversations with my family members and my therapist. I hadn't had any conversations with people who had previously moved abroad because I don't know any other Americans who have done it just personally in my circle. But what what I guess what's missing from those conversations online is also the challenging aspects. So I just want to be real. I want to just share what it's like, what I'm experiencing. So that's the whole intro to this. I want to just get into the video, but today I want to talk about something that is pretty heavy. It's a pretty heavy topic, and maybe I just need to make this video so I can get it off my chest. But I think it also will be a really good video for um, Black people, especially who are considering leaving abroad, moving abroad, because I am noticing this week, and I think I will say this conversation I think applies to Black and non-Black people, because I think living in the United States, your nervous system is just in such in a heightened state all the time. When you are a non-white person, it's even higher because the United States is extremely xenophobic. So, um, anyway, this conversation can be very helpful, I think, for Black people, for non-Black people, really anyone, because especially if you grew up in the United States, because what I'm learning is that my nervous system is so heightened. It's at such a tense state, and I'm sort of like coming down from it right now. So I just want to like sort of talk through what that process is like and just tell you guys a little bit more about what I'm experiencing. And I would love if there are other people who have lived abroad if you've noticed this too. And it's something that I think you only start to notice once you leave. So, yeah, let's talk about my nervous system. So, basically, the metaphor I have for this is, when you're sick, and for me at least, when I'm sick, it takes a while for my mind to recognize that I'm sick. So, like, for example, maybe it's a Friday and you've worked all week and you're tired. And you're like, I'm tired. I'm gonna just like lay on the couch and hang out for a little bit. And then maybe you wake up Saturday and you're like, oh, I'm still tired, but you continue doing the things you're doing, and you're like, okay, I just need to catch up on my sleep from the week. And then Sunday hits and you have like a stuffy nose and your body's achy and you have a headache. And all of a sudden it's like, oh wait, I'm sick. Like I actually am not well right now. My body was giving me the signs for a few days, but now I'm actually like now that I've tapped into that I'm not well, you start to feel all of your symptoms. That's me at least. Like once I recognize that I'm sick, then my body like just immediately turns on the sickness. That is the way I feel right now with my nervous system, moving from the United States. And I feel like maybe because I've gotten so used to living in this state of fear and tension and like just fear and my cortisol heightened. And now I live in a place where I'm not going to say, I know in a different video I talked about being black is a global experience, and I haven't been here long enough really to speak on like the racism that exists in other countries because obviously it does. So I just say that with context. I'm not arguing that the place I've moved to is not is not does not have racism there. I would never make that argument. But I think the difference is I'm not living in a police state. And one thing a few people who have lived here have already shared with me is that yeah, there is racial profiling in Spain. There's racial profiling really all over the globe. But it's different than the police existing as a like corporate entity that works in conjunction with the US government to make money off of imprisoning black and brown people. Right? Like it's very different moving from a place where the police are actually there to fight crime and to keep people safe, and maybe individual actors might have some bias. I think that's a real thing. We all have our bias. That's different than living in a police state where I know there's so much conversation online right now about the new like AI ring commercials and like it's full on turning into a surveillance state. For all people, if you are a black person, you've been living in a surveillance state since they brought us over there in 1619. Okay. Especially if you have parents or grandparents that lived through Jim Crow, which is like so just erased from US history. And I think it's so sad because Jim Crow, like really enhanced like racial codes and anti-blackness in the United States. So yeah, moving from a police state, that's very different. You know, like if you've looked into the history of the police in the United States, it pretty much stems down from slave catchers and that whole system that was created to catch escaped slaves or slaves who had, you know, fled to the north and already gained their freedom. So it's just a different kind of system. And I'm recognizing how nervous I get in a place where I don't need to be nervous. So there's been a few instances. I just want to like talk about very quickly what's happened and how I felt and how I recognize how I felt, and then had to tell myself like, hey, you don't have to feel that way. But it's alarming. It's alarming to recognize that I'm having these thoughts and these fears. It's alarming on the same spectrum. I think maybe it's rewarding because I'm recognizing how damaging living constantly in a state of fear can be to someone. So I'm grateful, while at the same time very disturbed that I was living and just living in circumstances like this, and that millions of other people also are experiencing the same thing. So yesterday I went to an amazing celebration of Carnival in Madrid. It was so cool. And as I was walking in, there were police, right? Because it's a huge event. There's like hundreds, maybe thousands of people there for a parade. So it makes sense to have police there to keep people safe. And as I was walking up, I noticed that I saw, wait, first two thoughts. The first thought is, I was so relieved. I didn't even think about someone having a gun or there being a mass shooting. Like it didn't even cross my mind about someone having a gun or there being a huge shooting at this event, which honestly is amazing. And it's so sad that previously I wasn't going to things because I was so fearful of there being a shooting, which is a huge fear for most Americans. So that's actually a beautiful thing. I didn't even have that fear until I thought about it later. I was like, oh, I wasn't even scared about there being a mass shooting. Talk about a nervous system reset, okay? But the second thing, the thing I want to talk about is that as we were walking up, there were police, and I got so nervous, you guys. Like, there was just the police were standing there, and there was this one instance where a policeman started like, so basically, it was like, I'm walking on this road, and there's police like on this side, and the guy just crossed the road. That was it. But the fear inside of me was telling myself, like, oh my gosh, like he's gonna stop me. What did I do? Like, oh my God, I'm so fearful of this guy stopping me. And that's so sad because I didn't do anything. There was nothing I did. And I keep having to remind myself and tell myself, Vanessa, you didn't do anything wrong. You're not committing a crime. Being black is not a crime in this country, which is very different when being black has been criminalized for like, I have ancestral. Like I feel like that's real. My ancestors for centuries in America have been fearful of the police because being black has been a crime. So anyway, when the man just crossed in front of me and nothing happened, I was like, wow, like I felt how stressed I was for a few seconds. And then I sort of had this like really intense fear, I mean not this really intense feelings of sadness because there's nothing to be afraid of. I'm not committing a crime just for being black. I'm not committing a crime for I'm at a parade, having fun, enjoying myself with all these other people who are here to celebrate. Um, and yeah, like that thought and that sort of like rise of fear and then falling, that roller coaster of cortisol and stress and things like that. I know it cannot be healthy. I know that that's the reason most Americans like die from stress. We die from diseases that we get from stress. And I know that over time it just feels horrible in my body. So I'm thinking about that and I'm thinking about, wow, like I have been living in a situation where me showing up somewhere just because I'm black, like my skin is a crime. I'm seen and I'm a tall person too. So being a tall woman, that's a whole nother video, but being a tall black woman, and my hair is short, like I'm not like at times I am super feminine and I'm treated differently. So I know that whole experience too. Like I know how I'm treated when I have my long braids versus how I'm treated when I have my hair short. And I would, I like the way I look at both ways. So nothing about that's changing, but yeah, the experience is different. I'm treated differently. And it's just really sitting with me how stressful that is to have to feel that fear day in and day out. And I can't wait for maybe like 6 months from now to see how I feel. Because I know that that can't be healthy to constantly be walking around fearful of other people being fearful of you. That is a horrible, horrible reality and existence. And I think it's going to continue to like really sink in how damaging that is. But it's just something I'm so grateful, I think, to even recognize and experience. And that is one thing that leaving the United States has already shown me. And again, I'm not arguing that there's not racial profiling in this country. There definitely is. I've only been here a few weeks, so I can't really speak on it that much, but I'm not naive enough to think that it doesn't exist. But it's definitely a different state. I don't live in a police state right now. I do not live in a police state, and my blackness is not being perceived as a crime simply for walking out the door. And that's just that. Y'all, this is heavy. It's heavy stuff, but I do want to talk about. I need to get it off my chest because I'm like recognizing what the thoughts are in my mind, how I'm feeling, things like that. And I think this can be helpful information. So if you've made it this far and this is helpful, go ahead and give the video a thumbs up. And I also want to hear from you guys. I'm assuming if you clicked on this video, you either live abroad or you have aspirations of living abroad. And I think a big thing I was concerned about was being black and living abroad. Like there is just a reality to being black on this earth. And if you live in North America, South America, Europe, or Asia, you are going to be in the minority in terms of your blackness. Maybe not in Brazil. But I know that there's still issues there with race. So I think that again, like anti-blackness is a global thing. But I want to talk about it. So anyway, if you are someone who clicked on that video for those reasons, I'd love to hear what your experience like is abroad. What I'm hearing is that what I'm hearing from a lot of people is that racism exists, but like the way the United States is doing it, the United States got the racism down. Like they got an A++ in racism and xenophobia. And I recognized the other day that while the xenophobia has been on the rise, and maybe it dipped a little bit, maybe in 2008, but I don't really think so. I think actually if you like zoom out, the way we were talking about the president was crazy. But I recognized the other day that xenophobia in the United States has been increasing since 2001, since I've been on the internet. And I think that over the course of 24 years, even though I wasn't experiencing like it all the time, like there weren't always people calling me the N-word or saying this and that to me, when you see people like you being teared down the whole time, or when the conversation is always about, how threatening non-white people are, you're going to start to internalize that. And I think I've tried really hard not to internalize that. And I think that in terms of anti-blackness, I think that I actually lucked out, like, with not having a lot absorbed. But I think it's almost impossible not to internalize the xenophobia, the anti-blackness, the white supremacist ideology that the United States espouses if you've lived there, especially, if you're from there and if you're born there like I am. Okay, and the last thing I want to talk about is actually just like walking around on the streets in Madrid. One thing I do love about Madrid, which for me is different than Barcelona. I lived in Barcelona for a few months, and this was, oh Lord, this was over a decade ago now. I think it was 2012, so it was a minute ago. But I do remember being a little uncomfortable with the lack of diversity, particularly like there's a lot of European diversity in Barcelona, but there's not a lot of diversity from other parts of the country, at least when I was there. Again, this was some time ago. But what I love about Madrid is that the city is so diverse. There are people, I'm like, where are you from? Like, there are people I've never seen anyone look like this before, which is like just my American experience, but I love how diverse the city is. There's people from South America, Latin America, North America, Europe, Asia, Africa. Like truly every continent I feel like is represented in Madrid. And anyway, I think the culture here is very friendly, not in the sense that like America is, where people are like, "Hi, how are you?" They don't do that here. They're very direct, but it's like this different kind of friendliness where I think I'm walking around again in such a heightened state of nervousness and not wanting to make people nervous and to make people comfortable and make people, know that like, well, I'm a good one, like, which is such bullshit. But I see, and people have even commented on it, they're like, don't, like, you're fine, like, don't worry, like, you're good. I just keep like moving to this, I'm like, oh, like, let me get out of this person's way, or like, let me make sure I smile at this person, or like, I don't know, there's just a lot of like sort of pleasantries, or like I'm recognizing that I've been putting on face for a lot of things that I don't need to do. And it's just been interesting in some of my reactions, like my interactions with other people. I can just engage in a conversation with people without like all of the sort of like bullshit niceties. I think this is an American thing. I think that we lead with this, and maybe it's like a result of all of the other sort of like racist stuff that is going on. But I'm just starting to recognize that I am putting on airs so much to like make sure people are comfortable, and I don't have to do that. And this is where how do I say this? Like I believe that when your ancestors and your bloodline and your people have grown up in a country, my family has been in the United States for hundreds of years. So that is, bloodline, like back. You can count to, and I just think about how policed and stressed and worried people in my family have had to be because they've been black, and they've had to prove to non-black people that they are not a threat and that they're not dangerous. And when that gets passed down through our bloodlines, it's, the trauma we hold in our bodies. I believe it. I believe it's in the food that we eat. I believe it's in the land. Like I feel like there's something about the land. I don't even want to say North America. I'm going to talk about my country specifically, even though I know that there's been a lot of nonsense on the whole continent. But I think that there's something about this trauma that's been stored in the body of my ancestors and continues to be stored in the body of Black Americans, where we've internalized the racism so much that we feel like we have to appease people. And I say that, recognizing I'm saying I'm talking about me, but I'm wondering if other people feel the same way. I also have other traumas, and I know that I'm a people pleaser, which I think has to do with me being black and being grown up in suburbia, but it also has a lot to do with just being black, period. So I know that not all people like me and not all black people have as much tendencies to want to people please, but I know it's something I'm experiencing, and I do think that it's a combination of a lot of reasons. So y'all just figuring it out, and I'm so happy though. Like, so I don't want this video to be like I'm loving this. I'm learning so much, and I'm being like I keep just saying, like expanding my heart, my mind, my emotions, and I'm loving it, and I want to be real. And if there are other Black people or Americans who are thinking about leaving the United States, this is a good thing. Like, I know that in a few months, I'm going to maybe watch this video or look back on my journals and be like, wow, like I was really feeling that. And my goal is to move about the world without all of that baggage and that trauma. Um, my goal is to move around the world like a white woman. Okay. What does Cardi B say? Me and Hennessy just cosplaying a white woman, baby. Like that's the goal. I feel so bad saying that. But yeah, I mean, like there is some realness in that. Like have the confidence of a mediocre white man, move about the world, cosplay a white woman, like just show up wherever you want and know that people aren't afraid of you and know that the color of your skin, your race, which is like a made up thing, is not a crime. Um, yeah, being black is not a crime. And that's what my nervous system is learning right now. And I'm learning it a little bit more day by day. And I think maybe this video is a part of the learning process and the healing process of it. So I'm going to wrap up this video right there. Also because my little bandana is like coming off. So I'm going to wrap up this video here. Let me know what you guys think. If you have moved abroad, did you experience the same thing? If you are Black and you're considering moving abroad, do you have fears about where you move? Because that definitely was on my mind too. And I have desires to live in other places. I want to stay in Spain for some time because I'm loving learning the language, and I don't want to just come to one country and then like give it a try for a few months and then leave. Like I do, I appreciate community and community building. So I see myself here for maybe at least like a few years, maybe like 2, 3 years. Um, but I want to try other places too. Like I know that my experience being Black in Spain, I'm sure when I go somewhere else, it'll be sort of like a restart. Maybe not from zero, but like it'll be a whole new experience of what being Black in a different country or continent means. So yeah, I'm gonna end it there. Thank you guys for making it this far through. If you like this video, why don't you go ahead and subscribe to the channel? Okay, subscribe. I'm going to continue documenting my experience. Give the video a thumbs up. If you have hypes left over, hype the video. Okay, I'm a small creator and it helps so much. So thank you all so much for watching. If you've made it this far, thank you for liking. Thank you for commenting. You guys, it means so much. Like I got a comment on my video the other day and it made me so happy. And it's really fun, like just to talk more. Like I'm sitting here talking to myself. Um, but it's really fun to hear from you guys and like really be involved in that kind of conversation. I love the comments on YouTube. I'm like always commenting on people's videos because one, I like really appreciate creators, especially like the smaller channels. And two, I just think it's fun to like interact with people even more. I guess I grew up on the internet like y'all in the 90s when we were in the AOL chat rooms. Okay. Millennials, if you remember the AOL chat rooms, give it a thumbs up. So I like interacting with people. So let me hear from you guys. I hope you have a great day and we'll talk very soon.